Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Terry McMacken, a local resident, and in the past few election cycles, I've been hosting these conversations with candidates, and the goal is simple, to give people a chance to get to know the person behind the campaign. This isn't a debate or a gotcha kind of interview, it's literally just a conversation. By the end of the video, my hope is that you have a better sense of who this candidate is, their background, their priorities, and how they approach leadership. So, the spirit of this conversation is one of curiosity and intentionality. So, we're really digging into the nuance and context of why someone would choose to put their name on a ballot and what they hope to accomplish. So, I have some prepared questions that the candidates received in advance, but we're going to follow the flow of the conversation, and every candidate has received the invite. So, if you have any questions after the interview, I would encourage you to reach out to the candidate directly. So, with that, I'm here with Karen, and we can get this started with really the first question. So, I would love for you to tell me a little bit about yourself. I know we've met and we worked together on a couple of different things, so I know a bit about you, but there might be people who don't. So, tell me a bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you, Terry, for putting this together and inviting all the candidates on the Community Three Rivers. And I appreciate your time and efforts. Myself, a little bit about myself. I've lived in the Petitcodiac area all my life. I grew up down on the 106. My grandfather started, which is now the Goddard Farm. That was my grandfather's farm, which is Murray Hall. And so I'm a farm kid at heart, and farming is always kind of in my blood and probably will never leave, quite honestly. I don't have a slew of animals at my own home. I have one friendly little kitty cat, which may join us. I don't know. But now I live and have lived for almost 40 years on the Blakeney Road, Fawcett Hill area. I live here with my husband, Dennis Middleton, and my son, Isaac Middleton. And you really the community Three Rivers in Petticoat area, whether we're in Hillgrove or Fawcett Hill or Kinnear Settlement or wherever we live, it is home to us. And so that is important to me. So when the amalgamation happened in 2022, 2023, we're elected in, it gave the outlying areas an opportunity to be involved in the municipal realms of the municipality and making decisions and bringing forth your ideas and bring forth the ideas of the residents in your area. And I felt that very important to try to be a part of. I was asked by several people, "Hey, Karen, you should run. Hey, Karen, you should run." I'm like seriously, like to be honest with you, it was the last thing in my mind ever to do. But I was really inspired by a previous mayor, Jerry Gogan, was very inspirational to me. And after him, even Dan Pollock and all the people that have been in council before me. And I felt an obligation to represent our area because I was kind of talking back and forth with another possible candidate in our area, and we were going back and forth who was going to run. And this person said, "No, you do it, Karen. It'd be a great opportunity. You'll learn a lot. You're very involved in the community." So because I was very involved in the community, I thought that was a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity for me to learn, for me to grow, and really, I really feel I have a, a responsibility to help our area and to be that voice.
I love that. And if you see me looking over to the side, I'm just jotting down some notes, things to follow up on, because you said a couple of things I thought were really awesome. One is just the fact that you have roots here. And as somebody who did move from away into this community, like you see people who have literally been here for generations. And I just feel like that's really powerful, right? Like you have a really strong sense of place and responsibility to the place and the people there. And I do love too that you were asked multiple times because there's this really cool statistic out there, especially for women running for any kind of elected position, that they need to be asked like 7 times before they even consider it. And so I'm glad there was all kinds of people asking you, because clearly it got you to where you are today, and I'm happy that you listened to them. And I also love that you mentioned Jerry as well, because Jerry's the reason that I served on council. And he was just a very, very special guy, another guy who had deep roots in the community, who just really, really cared. And I think that's awesome. And I really think that speaks to your motivation. So maybe you can reiterate or kind of clarify what your motivation is for running in this position.
I think motivation is I've always, at a very young age, always gave to other things and other people in other places. So I was brought up, like you said, and I would talk to you earlier in a 15-room home, but it had 6 or 7 bedrooms. My parents were people who gave to the community, meaning they would give to the people maybe kind of less fortunate type deal. They would take in people like over the course of I don't know how many years. Honest to goodness, my parents took in probably like 40 plus people in their home, gave them a bed, gave them food, tried to help them on their way, that kind of thing. So my inspiration is to be helpful and to be helpful in my community and help my community grow and help my community grow in a responsible way also. You know, the things with taxes we're always worried about and money spent and where it's spent, that's important to me.
And that kind of brings me back to something else you had mentioned, like before, we became Three Rivers, we had all of these like outlying communities that didn't really have an opportunity to engage in municipal politics. And when you learn that more than half of the province, like province-wide, people lived in like local service districts or rural areas that did not have an elected official, which means
Yeah.
their touch point with the government was their MLA. So that is provincial level, that is higher level. And I can guarantee these MLAs, they're busy. We all know that. They're not paying attention to a tiny community of, 50 people living in this one area. So that change really made it so that one, people actually had a say in who was representing them. But two, it also gave opportunities for people like you to step up when you normally wouldn't have been able to. Like if you didn't live within the boundaries of Petitcodiac, serving on council would have never been an opportunity that was afforded to you. And I really appreciate that you say, you're in this to give back, right? And there's that history in your family of people giving back. And that's just so wonderful. And helping the community grow in a responsible way. And I think that's a really key word because there's going to be times, and I mean, you've sat on council, I've sat on council, that sometimes the responsible decision is not the popular one. And it's one
Mhm.
informed by all kinds of things that other people might not have access to that information and able to form, that same response that you would to an issue. So that is super important. But to that question of responsibility, I feel like that leads really nicely into one of the other questions I had prepared was actually, what do you believe is the most important responsibility of a counselor or a mayor?
I really think is listening to the residents of the community, engaging in events and activities, being there that they can go and approach you to be approachable, and engaging. I think those all are important things in our community that the residents feel like really I'm the next door neighbor. Like you know what I mean? I'm the girl that grew up here. I'm the person who went to school here. So I know a lot of people around my area, all of Three Rivers and surrounding Butternut Valley, Salisbury, wherever it may be. And I think that's an important part of being on council that and not that there's outcomers that can't be involved, like yourself, but I think it really, I know so many people in this area, and I think I have a good rapport with, most of the people in our area, quite honestly.
It's kind of funny, because you can't hide. Not like I'd ever accuse you of hiding from anybody because I know you don't. But
No.
I remember just being in like the grocery store and people like pulling me aside and like legitimate questions. And 9 times out of 10, they were super kind and just curious about it. And they loved that, that I was a person and you are a person that they can approach to actually ask these questions to kind of anywhere, anytime, because you're actually out in the community doing things,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Um, one question I didn't get to, I'm going to back up a little bit, but I feel like it's important that you
Sure.
talk about either your professional life or volunteer life. I know not everybody works, careers that are super relevant to politics, but usually there's bits and pieces in your life, again, whether volunteer or paid work, that really help prepare you for this role. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Right out of high school, I worked in several different jobs, and I think that gave me, instead of working in one job maybe 30, 40 years, which is great in all aspects, but I think I had an opportunity to work in different jobs, which gave me different experiences and gave me different knowledge and different skills. Things like, just how to talk to different people and things like that. I worked anywhere from I at a high school. It used to be called the Joy Memorial Home at that time. I worked with the Boys and Girls Club, so I worked with seniors. I worked with kids. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club for a period of time. I also worked in manufacturing for a period of time. I worked in sales and service for a period of time. And now I actually work for myself. So I think the thing is that I have a wide range of skills and experiences that help with being a municipal council, on being on municipal council.
I love that variety too, and how you mentioned you've worked with like kids to seniors, right? Like that's the population you're serving, and you're serving, kids and young people, even if they're not of the age, to vote or participate in this election. The parents are. So I think it's important that they understand that you have that kind of experience and that kind of involvement. Um, One thing I want to dig a little bit deeper into, because I feel like you have a pretty good understanding, is that like, municipal governments are limited in their powers, and there are three different levels of government. And I'm sure in your conversations, because I know in my conversations, people are confusing the different responsibilities of different levels of government. And I like to tell the story of when I was campaigning, I had someone who was very angry about the state of healthcare in the province, and they were pointing their finger at me like, "What are you going to do about healthcare?" And I'm like, "Well, so there's three levels of government. Municipal, I'm more, if you're having issue with your garbage pickup or your sewer line or anything like that, you're going to want to talk to me about that. For healthcare, you're going to want to reach out to this person." So I don't know if that's something maybe you've come across yet in your campaigning, but how do you deal with that conversation? And I don't want to say de-escalate because most of these situations are just conversations, but help people better understand what your actual role is versus what they think your role might be.
Collaboratively working with the other parts of government is probably the biggest thing. So you're in the know a little bit to find out information or to ask the questions from your MLA or on up. So the thing is, if a person is approaching me in the community and they're asking that something's not a municipal responsibility, I do let them know that okay, that doesn't fall under the municipal responsibility. But what does fall under the municipal responsibility is we can advocate for them on their behalf, right? So whether it be healthcare, whether it be schooling, whether it be our roads, which is always topic of concern, I advocate on their behalf, and I try to. My best thing is what I try to do is communication. So communication is key to me. It's almost like the first thing I do with everything. I try to communicate openly and honestly what I can do and what I can't do. And then I'm willing to work with them to try to find the answers. I mean, I don't have all the answers. That's obvious. But nobody has all the answers to anything. But I try to find out as much as I can for them and guide them where they can get the information as well. Like we'll talk about the medical system. We'll talk about our new health care system coming here. The thing is like everybody says, well, I hope there's going to be more doctors. Well, not necessarily there's going to be more doctors. What I try to explain to people is that they're bringing in nurse practitioners that can do a lot of the same stuff that a doctor can do. Everybody thinks they need a doctor. No, what you need is medical care. So whether it's a doctor, whether it's a nurse practitioner, whether it's a nurse, whether it's blood work, or whether it's counseling, or whatever it is, I try to guide them on just opening up their mind a little bit on the other opportunities that there is out there. And so I try to, my big thing is communication. I try to communicate as much as I possibly can. And so that's how I would answer someone like that. I would say what I can do as a municipal counselor, and then where I could guide them or help them get the information they're looking for.
It's not dismissive. Like you don't want to be
Oh
dismissive. If
no.
somebody feels comfortable enough to come talk to you about something that they really care about, like you
Yes.
have them in a moment and you have them in a headspace, and you want to make sure that your response isn't adding to their stress or to their problems. And I fully agree with you too about that connection between the different levels of government. It's like, well, no, I can't do that thing, and that's not in, my scope. But I know whose scope it is, and I'm happy to help you connect with that person. I mean, there's been many times I've helped people, connect with their MLA. I've even helped them draft the email and ask the questions that I know they're going to get a better answer, too. And I feel like it's really important that an elected official is willing to do that. And I know you've done that, and it's good to hear that it's something that is really important to you. And I think this kind of leads into one of my other questions that I had sent is about those healthy boundaries, right? Because we are so connected in this community. Yes, they'll find you, at Foodland or, out at the community garden. I really want to hear some real responses from the candidates about how they're going to realistically balance what's effectively, a paid part-time job with the expectation of people that you work full-time all the time. And this is as much of a message to the audience as it is part of this question that the candidates and whoever ends up winning this election are humans. Most of them have other jobs. Most of them are not on call 24/7, but they really want to be there. So I want to hear how you're going to set those boundaries and enforce them in a reasonable way.
I'm not big on setting the boundary thing, we'll say. I what I do is if I'm involved in something with community garden or whatever I'm involved in, a lot of times I get my family involved too. Quite honestly, my mother's at the community garden, my husband's helped mow up there, my son's come out and help plant up there. So instead of setting the boundaries between, municipal government, what I'm doing, and my family life or my personal life type thing, a lot of times they intertwine. We like I said, we live in this community. We know all the people here. Like I don't find yes, I'll set some boundaries. Okay, I'm going to be on vacation from this time to this time, or I'll answer your question. I'll get back to you in a couple of days, that kind of thing. But I never dismiss anybody. Like I'm usually readily available. Like I'll make a phone call 8 o'clock at night, or 8 o'clock in the morning, or send an email, or go and meet them in person. So I'm usually not like head set on boundaries so much because I'm pretty fluent. I'm pretty just like easygoing, easy along with, easy to talk to, or I hope that I am. And so setting such boundaries, I don't like to be rigid on that. That's not me. That's not who I am. And the whole campaign and doing any of this or running on council is like, I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to be trying to be somebody else. If somebody wants to set their boundaries different than I do, that's fine with them, but I'm just going to be me at the end of the day.
I feel that too, like with my life, and I'm self-employed, and as are you, so we understand that we have those flexible schedules to work things in. We understand that not everyone is going to be able to pick up the phone between like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 kind of hours. And I really like that you kind of integrate your family into this. I know I would bring my boys to all kinds of things, and you're kind of making it like a two for one. Like, of course, I'm serving my community, but I'm also living in the capacity of a community member, right? Benefiting
Yeah.
from these awesome things that like you're doing and you're planning. So that's really cool. And I like your response that it's going to look different for everybody, right? Like this is
Yeah.
you, this is what you're willing to take on. And I do hope you set boundaries for vacations and stuff too. I am very
Absolutely.
big on that. Yes, I know
I
you're
already have one
involved.
planned.
Perfect, perfect. Nobody bug Karen during that time, leave her alone. Um, this is all great. And I think I hate to move from something so positive to something a little bit more negative, but it is a reality that especially elected officials and people running in campaigns, you're going to face the negativity. You're going to face, the comment section on Facebook or people like accusing you before they even think to ask a question and clarification. And that is something that I feel very strongly about. And in my own life and on the happenings page, very much, ask before you accuse, bring your question directly to the person who can answer it. There's no need for extra drama, all of that stuff. But how are you, as a human being with feelings, planning on dealing with this coming your way? Like, do you have some like coping mechanisms? Again, this is about boundaries too. Are you just going to say, listen, if you're going to be negative, we can talk about this when you're in a better headspace? Like, how do you want to handle that?
Well, I have handled this in different ways. Not in different ways, pretty much the same way. Like I said before, I believe in communication. Now, if something's posted on a Facebook message on there and it is negative, I will reach out to that person, usually privately, or say, can we have a private conversation? Bring it around that way. I'm looking for their phone number or email address. I really prefer to talk in person. I find it much more. I don't know. It's just better. There's no miscommunication. I find that way. So that's my approach. Is that I'm pretty good in stressful situations. It's probably my thing. Like I thrive in big crowds and a lot of confusion and things like that. I almost become the calm in the storm. So that's how I approach it.
I like that a lot. And I find too when if somebody is coming at you and being rude, you almost diffuse the situation by saying like, "Hey, do you want to meet for coffee and talk about
Yes.
this? Like coffee's on me." And 9 times out of 10 they just disappear because some people just like to come in, rain on the parade, and then move along, and you're just going to have those people, and that's unfortunate. But then you'd be surprised by some people like, you know what? Like, yeah, I want to talk to you. And then they sit down, and then you realize how hard, even people you don't like, but how hard it is to hate somebody up close. It's very hard to hate someone from behind a screen or without any kind of accountability to, how you're making that person feel. But when you actually get to talk to them and being that person to invite them into the conversation, I feel like says a lot about somebody, right? Like, okay, we clearly disagree, but let's talk about this. So I do like that you reach out to people, and I respect that you cannot reach out to every single person who's going to say something negative, but that effort, I think, is appreciated. I really do. Um, so communication is kind of like the big theme here, and you obviously have the last several years on council kind of demonstrating how you have communicated. Maybe you can kind of reiterate your plans should you win. Are there different things you're going to do? Are there different channels of communications or other ways you're going to communicate?
Well, yes, like communication is key. So what I did start on there, start the Three Rivers Facebook page on there. I pretty much manage all that. I go on it every day, update things and change things around. It's treated like an electronic bulletin board. So it means like things go on, but then when they're done, things come off. So you can't scroll down there forever. You can only scroll down so far, and actually things will end. Another thing I've done and will continue to do is put articles and things in the news and views. So we went from maybe having a paragraph in there or so prior to me coming on council to pretty much almost 2 pages now. So that's where we'll post events coming up, we'll council news and think. Now, what I'd like to see is more things come out of the council meetings. Now, that's not something I can give. I'm not the writer, really. I'm a poor speller. I'll tell you, I always spell something wrong. But that really needs to come, and I've voiced my concerns many times. I really find that we need to be more communicating what's going on within the boundaries of the council, meaning what decisions we're making, what policies we put in place, and things like that. Really being accountable. I want to be more accountable to the general population to let them know what's going on. I do push for things like the library update within the news and views this time. I do push for these things, but I would like to see more of it. I find communication, once again, is key. And what you don't know, you make up. And I've told them many times what people make up is never good. So, not normally. So, that's what I find that I would like to see more communication transparency in the council and in the municipality.
I really appreciate that you bring that up. I know that was something that I cared about a lot on council, and I did some work for that too. Um, and the news and views is just when you realize the decline of just like local journalism and like these local papers, you can really appreciate what a gem that is in our community to be
Oh,
able to have
yeah.
that. And we need to be utilizing it. Like that thing should be this thick, right? With all of this stuff. So I encourage people, shout out to the news and views, submit your articles. That's fantastic. Um, I had also jotted down too. I don't think a lot of people realize that council meetings, unless otherwise specified, are actually open to the public. Because of
Yeah.
space limitations, of course, you want to make sure to let them know, like, hey, I'm planning on attending, make sure to save me a seat. That's actually Jerry Gogan was the one who told me that. And I remember showing up at my first council meeting, and anyone on that council can vouch for this. I sat there, I'm a 25-year-old, having just moved here with my little notebook, and council looked at me. They're like, "So what's your issue? What's your beef?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just here to learn. Like, I just want to see what's going on." They did not believe me, and I know I'm a weirdo. Like, I fully embrace, my weird and my love of governance, but I think being more intentional about getting that information out as opposed to expecting people to come find it would go a long way
Yes.
because the minutes, council minutes are public. At any
Yes.
time you could send an email, hey, can I get the minutes? Cool, you'll get the minutes. And I don't think the minutes maybe themselves should be published. They can be kind of boring and long, but I love the idea of like some kind of maybe summary or just an update or did you know we're working on this policy? And I think too crediting the people involved in that, right? So it's like Karen Hall Middleton, I brought this policy forward and we're working on it, or whoever else. I think it's important to give credit where credit's due. So I love that you bring that up as, kind of a priority. Um, this is more of like a general all-around question because I think I know the answer, but I want to hear you articulate it. But what kind of tone do you feel like you want to set as a leader in this community? Like what is that I say vibe. I feel like that's such a millennial young person thing, but you know what I mean by vibe. What
Oh
is
yeah.
that
No,
vibe that
no.
you
We
want to
all we
set?
all like the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is me. I am just outgoing, friendly, approachable. The vibe is really, I have a love for our community. You know what I mean? Like I care. And so the vibe is that I do care about our community. And I want everybody to care about where they live, what their surroundings look like, their neighbors, everything that goes along with that. So me, it's just like, I'm that person that sees that cup half full, not half empty, always. And so when I kind of get, sometimes, kind of squash on that idea, but I don't. I bounce over that. And so I want everybody to bounce over that, like get over maybe the things that are nagging them or are bothering them and things like that. And look for the positive things. There's so many positive things in our community and in life that we just need to take advantage of. Like, the grass is turning green right now. That's pretty important to me. The flowers are starting to bloom, the trees are starting to leaf out. So that is my outlook in life in general. Like, listen to the birds, look at the sky, take in a sunset. Like, that's who I want us all to be.
Stop and smell the roses, right?
Absolutely.
Um, maybe too, because I feel like we're getting to the end of some of our questions, and I think we're doing good for time. I know I had put out like, oh, up to 45 minutes, I guess. Like, I just didn't want to cut anybody off, but I think we're getting near the end of it. But I would love to hear from you, maybe three-ish priorities. Say you get elected. What are like those three things that you plan on focusing on?
Well, thanks. Good question. And this absolutely is a hard one for me. Um, I'm kind of like, who I am is like what comes at me, I'll say. So to set those three priorities is a little hard at this point. Not that there isn't important things to me and things to our community, it absolutely is. And I think one of the biggest thing is like we live out in the country because that's what we enjoy. We enjoy the spaces. Like I live on a property on Blakeney Road with 32 acres of land. That's what I like. I like my solitude. I like my yard. I like to go out in my pajamas if I want to, and nobody really cares or sees me. Um, those are things that are important to me that I think over listening to people, I'm going door to door and meeting people, and over years, people want our community to stay our community. We're not looking to be a big city. Yes, we're looking to grow, relatively, evenly along. We'd like to have opportunities for our children to be able to work here or close proximity. We would like to have housing that is not astronomically high that our kids can afford. But really is our way of life. That's what I one of the objectives or goals would be keeping our way of life. People, nowadays all have a lot of people have chickens, and that's what they want. And they're raising their children around chickens and goats and things like that that are important to them, especially out in the rural areas. They're not looking to be governed or all these regulations or rules. They're looking just to live their life pretty simple. And that's what I'm looking for. I mean, there's things that are important, like things like the ice plant for the arena is very important to me. The arena is a big hub in our community. I mean, it's an amazing place in the wintertime with the hockey and the skating and the activities that take place there. Kudos to minor hockey and the figure skating club. I mean, they do a wonderful job. The dance group that's upstairs does a wonderful job as well. So I think it's keeping one goal to me is keeping our community what we have, what we are, our heritage, our history, and who we are. That's really important to me, and I think important to most of the people in our community. Other things that are important is to we're looking to, like we talked about the rating, we're looking to improve infrastructure or at least maintain infrastructure and grow a little bit in our parks and make a little bit more friendly, um, more activities or more things going on that our kids can enjoy without have to go outside of our area to go do everything. And as you leave our community to go do everything, you're pouring into their communities, which is fine. We won't ever have everything, in our community. We know we have to go outside that, but we have to maintain the things in our community and keep them upgraded. And then I don't know. It's always important. It is the things that we kind of can't control that much. Is like our road infrastructure is huge. It's probably one of the biggest things people say between roads and policing. Both those things are fairly safety in our own homes because that goes along with us living where we live and enjoying where we live. Is be able to drive on roads that aren't going to beat our cars to pieces and have feel safe, and those are important to me, and hopefully those are the things that I can bring forward. There's many other things, and I would quite like, if I got on council again, quite like to dig a little deeper into some more serious issues like homeless, the housing, um and opportunities for our residents. That's kind of, for jobs and housing and stuff. So that's all important to me.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is you want considerate growth, like the growth that we are going to have in the areas that we're going to have it is going to like consider our history, our priorities, like the types of lifestyles that we live. And I think that's really great because I feel like that's an interesting balance of, you know, progress, which is kind of going to happen whether we like it or not, but progress done like with consideration, of what the
Yes.
people who live here and what they actually want. And yes, shout out to our rink, hockey mom here. I got two goalies. I'm half crazy. Um, but and I do appreciate personally that you brought up the rink because in my life and in the season of my life that I'm in right now, I live at that rink, right? And the friendships that happen, the
Oh yes.
connection that
Yes.
happen in that building. And I know you would have seen the 50th anniversary video that I was asked by council to put together. And as somebody who's not from here, I learned so much. And I mean, I already
Yes.
appreciated that space and the people who work within it and work around it. And doing that video really kind of dug into the heart of what that space is in the community. And as
Yeah.
somebody who hates the cold, I would not leave my house if not for hockey. So I'm grateful that it gives me a reason to just leave the house and not stay curled up with like my little hot drink, watching a movie or Netflix or something. Um, and I do like too that you started to kind of scratch the surface on these bigger issues. And these are issues that require tons of nuance. There's no one solution to, housing issues or safety issues. And in my day job, one of my clients is a New Brunswick nonprofit housing association. Shout out to them. And there's so many people looking at, what this looks like too in smaller communities, right? Homelessness and safety issues do not look the same in Petitcodiac as they look in Moncton. So the solutions that are proposed for the cities are not going to be the same that work for us. And I know I believe strongly that a lot of the solutions to these issues do start with our sense of community and our connectedness to each other, our willingness to support each other before we ever have anybody end up kind of in those situations, right? Knowing your neighbor, which is a core value that I've learned being here, right? And checking in and all of these really awesome things that I feel like we could have a whole other conversation about. But I appreciate that that's on your mind and something that like you're looking forward to. And I did think of one more question that I think is a really interesting one because if you're thinking of like an issue, like maybe just something specific, it doesn't have to be the most important one to you, but maybe an easy one to pull. An issue that you want to work on, should you get on council, what is it, and what are you doing now, I guess this question is difficult for you because you are on council, but
Mhm.
my point of the question is, what are you doing on council that you couldn't do as a private citizen? I know, um, here's a dog park example. I find this is a really good example. I had lots of people when I was on council, we want a dog park, we want a dog park. And I'm like, cool. What are you giving me? Like, are you just giving me the idea and expecting me to pull this out, create a dog park, do all of the work that goes into making a dog park? Or what are you bringing to the table as a person? Are you going to start looking for sponsors? Have you pulled up sample bylaws? Like, the real question is about the skin in the game. Like, what skin in the game do you have as a citizen? You know what I mean? On top of being a counselor. I'm not sure if I articulate it that well, but I just want to hear what you think citizens could be doing, even if they're not serving on council.
Okay. So, yeah, great question. I really think that, and what I've learned being on council is that we do have a voice, and everybody has a role to play, if you want to be involved. What I've learned is that you can take on a project, and you don't have to be on council to do it. Quite honestly, I mean, the opportunity on council just gives you that opportunity, is what it does, and to bring it to council and have a little, maybe a little more push behind it and things like that. But every resident has that same opportunity. We all have the same opportunities. So if you have a great idea and you want to bring that forth, to me is, and what I've learned and what I've done is you bring it in a neat little package, we'll say. Yes, and maybe you collaborate with some other residents, some other people that have the same common goal, which would be great. Whether it be a dog park or whether it be a skate park or whether it be whatever it is that you kind of have you do have power, and we all do. So, whether you're on council, whether you're not, we all have power to be able to bring that forth. And what I've learned is you bring things, you have an idea, you research it, you get all your stuff lined up, your proposals or your appraisals, whatever you need to happen, and you bring it in a, well, to me, you bring a neat little package type deal, and you get other people on board with you that think that's a great idea. And anybody, council or any resident in the community can do that. You've done that with the housing, garden home. I'm trying to think the right name it's called, and
Garden
you can do
suites,
that. You
yes,
don't
yeah.
necessarily. What's that?
Garden
You don't
suite.
necessarily. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to be on council to do that, but on council helps. You know what I mean? You've got that voice. You've got a vote, which is really good. So a resident can bring something to council and work on it together and bring forth a project or an idea, and then and bring it forth to the council and see if you can get approval on it. So I think we all have a role in that. I think being on council or not being on council, the thing is, like you mentioned, people have ideas and just want you to run with it. I'm like, well, hey, do you want to get involved with me? People are really good though and want to get involved most times, which is great. I mean, especially if it's their idea. A lot of times I go, what is your idea? Because I have to see it myself, like for me to get into it, to understand it. So that's I guess that would be the answer to that. I don't know, but
I feel like you answered that question much better than I asked that question. So I
oh, I
appreciate
don't feel
that.
like
And
I
I,
answered it that great, so I don't know, but like it's
but
just
I
it
think we got to
really
the
is
core
working
of it
together.
though. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely
Yeah,
got to the core of, you know, if you're approaching your counselor, say that's you and say you win your seat, come prepared, right? Like you have a lot of stuff that you're working on. And I can say when I was on council way back when, I got paid 5,500 bucks a year. My
yeah,
daycare costs were double than that. So, I mean, it was effectively a volunteer position. And if you really want these things to happen in your community, there is a role for everybody to
yeah,
bring those things forward. You know, you want to see, I mean, we have our community garden, but just use for example, you want to see a community garden? Draft up some plans, grab yourself a couple of
that's right.
sponsors, get yourself a committee. Like, there's nothing stopping you from starting these groups to get these really cool things going. So I feel like that's kind of like a really good message to leave on, really, is that even if you're not a counselor, even if your name isn't on a ballot, you still have a role to play in making this community awesome. So I'm going to give you an opportunity is before we get into our little lightning round, kind of like fun little questions. Is there anything that you didn't say or any kind of closing words, anything else that you want to add?
First of all, I want to appreciate everybody it was a great opportunity and to be elected in 2023. I mean, I was very proud and very honored of all the people who voted for me and put me in that position. It was a great learning experience. I really, really hope to continue. I have lots of ideas and I have lots of plans for the future. And like I said, I want to dig a little deeper. I want to dig a little deeper into the main core things. Like my my portfolio, as you know, Terry, you have a portfolio. So mine was community development, so which include beautification, tourism, promotion, also business liaison, and Maple Street Park was my baby, we'll call it. So I really feel in all those, also EMO. So I also feel in all those areas, I made leaps and bounds and I improved in all those areas. I'm very proud of all that. And I just would like the opportunity to continue that. I am not done. I would still like to serve the community, and I still have a ton of ideas, and I want to work with other people's ideas and make them happen. I would also like to add, like, I just want to be a strong voice for Ward 1. I go into every
Mm,
council meeting, Ward 1 is always first and foremost. So whatever decisions are being made or whatever talk is happening around the table, I always have Ward 1 in my mind first. And then as you know, I do a lot of stuff in Ward 2. Like, and because the people of Ward 1, we know we go to Petticodiac, and I've talked to many people. Many of them are family members, friends, people I know most of my life. We know we go to Petticodiac for most of our things, whether we're shopping or whether we're at the arena or going to the pool or enjoying the parks. That's where we do go. I do have a bit of little projects for Ward 1. I have some coming up. And if I'm not elected, I will still continue with those projects. They're still dear, near and dear to my heart. But I really hope to be on council, to be that voice, to be a strong voice for Ward 1 and keep everything accountable that way.
that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, so here's some quick questions for fun. What's your favorite local place? This can be a place to visit, a place to eat, even a place just to sit under a tree. What's your favorite local place?
Okay, well, this is an easy one.
I think
So
I know.
there's many places right around the community, and whether they're in Ward 1 or Ward 2 or Ward 3. I mean, like I said, I've lived here all my life, so everything is important to me. Really, everything's special to me. There's not one thing that's kind of more special than the other, as far as that goes. But what near and dear to my heart, of course, is Maple Street Park. Um, Maple Street Park is where I've invested a lot of my time and efforts. With either the Petticodiac and Area Garden Club, with all the improvements we made there, whether it be working with the Kiwanis Club on improving the outdoor rink, whether it's with government, with like our MLAs with grants, or our Horizon Health Network on getting grants to put in the 9-hole disc golf course, or put in accessible pathways, or increasing the community garden space, or usable space, I guess it would be. Um, or sitting on a bench, sitting on a bench looking out at the beautiful, you know, surroundings, or watching the birds. Like, it's seriously, Maple Street Park is probably, it's near dear to my heart because I've invested a lot of time and effort into it. So, and that would be my favorite place right now.
I love it. What about like a hidden gem? Like, and maybe I know you can use Maple Street Park again, but maybe if there was something like specific that maybe
Yeah.
most people don't know about, like what would you say? What's a fun hidden gem in the community?
Okay, so hidden gem, there's a couple things I'm going to say. One is, and that's one thing that I want to do with this kind of one of these projects I've got going on. A hidden gem, Petticodiac, to me is where the river begins. Petticodiac is well known. It's well known, in lots of places, even across the world type deal. We've had people come here from other places of the world and want to know where the river begins. So the river, Petticodiac River, begins in Petticodiac. It's where the Annagants and the North River meet and create the Petticodiac River. So I want to make a kiosk there where people can go and visit with a QR code, which will guide them to other. I want to do a project. I already have it in the works. We put it in the budget. It's kiosks where you can have history and knowledge about the area. We're going to put 2 in each ward. So 2 in Ward 1, 2 in Ward 2, 2 in Ward 3. That will have key areas of those communities. And I think the river begins is very important. I think it's a part of our heritage. It's part of our culture. The river, it's just canoeing down the river. I've done it many times myself, come down the North River into the Petitcodiac River. So it's a hidden gem that I don't think we really promote that much. You know what I mean? But I think it's important that we do. Another little hidden gem in the community, and it really needs to have its own location, is the Three Rivers Community War Museum. That place is amazing. I mean, there is so much stuff, over 10,000 artifacts in there. I mean, and it's not you pop up and you look at, okay, this, but you really need to get the tour from Kathy Drury, the director. And when you have the tour from her, which could be quite lengthy, but you can ask for a half an hour tour, a 2 hour tour, or an hour tour. The wealth of knowledge she has of the history and the dates. I don't know how you could possibly remember that much. But seriously, it's a hidden gem in our community and it really does need its own location, which I've got a little project I'm working on there too. So that is just a couple of hidden gems. There's many. I mean, really, our whole area is a hidden gem, quite seriously. I mean, Elgin, the river. I mean, we just go back to the rivers a lot. I mean, I'm a water freak, so I love the water. I have a pool in my own yard, not very big, little biscuit pool, but works. So that's all important to me. It's all hidden gems.
I really appreciate that your hidden gems are actually kind of hidden. Like
Yeah,
where
yeah,
the
they
river
are hidden.
begins, it's like, unless you know where that is, like it's actually hiding. The War Museum, so kudos to Kathy for all of that hard work, is literally up like back stairwell or whatever, because I've been up there too. And it's such a cool spot. And you're right, it absolutely deserves its own place. So shout out to where the river begins and the War Museum. And final question, courtesy of my kids, who are you rooting for in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Oh no, I was hoping you were not going to ask me this question. Uh, any Canadian team.
You know what? That's my answer too. Like, I live in a family
So I'll go
of,
with that.
yeah, I live in a family of Leafs fans, so they're chronically disappointed. But my team is really the Ottawa Senators, and I'm like, we made the first round. Like, that's cool. So go Canadian teams. And I apologize if I am offending anybody here with my lack of knowledge, but I just thought it'd be a fun question to throw in because I'm sure someone's going to come back with a really passionate answer for that question.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I love all sports. I love watching all sports. I'm not sports myself so much, but I love watching all sports. But really, any Canadian team, I'm rooting for you.
I mean, I feel like we've done great for time. I feel like people will listen to this and understand you and your position and your motivation even more. And I'm hoping that they use this video as well as the other videos that we're going to create with the candidates to really inform their decision because it is so important. And I know you know this too, to get out and vote. Our voter turnout for municipal candidates, I mean, it's like 33%. I think, which blows my mind as somebody who's
Yeah.
geeks out on this stuff all the time. I'm like, so 33% of people in this community made the decision for 100% of the community. Not saying it was a wrong decision. You guys have done a great job. I'm just saying that 33% is small. Like, can we get to 40? Can we get to 50? I want to see at least 80, but get out and vote. So, Karen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that you've agreed to this conversation. Your insights have been awesome, and I'm glad we have it recorded. So, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the time and opportunity, and thank you for putting this together. And yeah, like you said, get out and vote. That's the most important thing. Get out and vote for whoever you choose to vote for. I'd appreciate voting for myself in Ward 1, but I understand it's democracy, and we have that choice, and you have the choice to vote whoever you want. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karen. Take care.